Hello and welcome once again to Ignite Your Impact. My name is Jen Rhodes. I'm going to do my best to not fidget. Hello, Matt Rhodes.
Let's roll.
I am stacking evidence in my favor that I am not a fidget. I think the evidence points otherwise. What a great segue into our topic today. So I want to talk about something I was discussing with a client the other day. And she's brand new, probably week 2, almost week 3, right? Super new, like still working through the kinks, still setting the foundation. Quads are still a little sore. She's still a little pissed off at me right now. And she'd been following me for a while and had some things happen in her life that finally just prompted her to shoot me a DM on Facebook. And I'm super glad she did. I'm loving where she's at right now. But here's the question. And I know we've talked about this previously on another podcast. And funny because we just went through a training that put this in a different way, that I knew that we had to share it with everyone, but it came at the perfect time, right? This question, I was like, this is perfect. I can talk about this on a podcast. Thank you so much. What a coincidence. Here's the question. It was something along the lines of, I'm 30 pounds overweight. I am stressed to the bone. I see you. I see your husband. And I see all these other clients of yours. I'm just not sure how I can go from where I am now to where I want to be. And I'm so excited that she did frame that question. And I'm super excited to frame the answer in this new way.
And I want to interrupt real quick.
Yes.
Because I want to set
Please
the stage of why this is so important for everyone. I want to ask everyone listening right now, whether you're listening or you're watching us, are you in the 80 or the 20% right now? Because you fall into one of them, and each and every one of us does. And let me explain further what I mean by the 80 or the 20%. I had the opportunity to sit through a training with Dr. Shanna Teal, and she is a clinical and industrial psychologist. And basically she helps leaders perform and feel better. And that's what she does. And she talked about how we all have this structure growing up. And if you think about it, we had this structure in school, 1st to 9th grade. First period, second period, third period, fourth period, lunch is in there. It's all very structured. And then it's structured when you get on the bus or when your parents pick you up or when you drive home. It's just, your life is very structured. And then even at home, your life is structured based on the way your parents have brought you up. And then when you leave that time and you go into the workforce, there's even some on-the-job training. So there's structure there. But after that, a lot of the structure kind of falls away. And there isn't any real structure for you. And here's the big one. There's always going to be change regardless of structure. Mm. And when you don't have structure, that change comes at you, and it's change that you don't choose. It pushes you into change that you don't choose. And here's the surprising thing. That happens 80% of the time. 20% of the time you're choosing to change, 80% you're not. So 20% of the time you're saying, hey, I want to make a change in something, and this is what I'm going to do. 80% of the time life happens, and it forces you to change. And you have no structure in there, built in there, to help you with change, to help you through it. And either's wrong. I was at that. I've been at the 80% and 20%. We all have at different times in our life. But my big change, it was the 80%. I wasn't choosing to change. I was pushed into change. I had to change. Life circumstances came at me, and I had to change. So if you're listening now, and let's say you fall into that 20% and you're sitting there saying, man, I would like to make some changes. Or maybe you're in that 80% and you're saying, I've got to make some changes. You're probably wondering that same question that Jen's client asked of her. I'm here and I don't see how I'm going to get there. How do I get started? How do I actually follow through this time? I've tried so many different ways. How do I actually follow through this time? For me, it was, how did I go from this fat, lacking drive person with limitations to a person who is in shape and trying to be elite every day in every vertical, just trying every day to win every day. And the secret is, it's called evidence. You have to have evidence.
I love that 80-20 comparison. I hadn't heard it put like that. That's
it's scary
but it's a great visual. Yeah, it is. And
80%
I
of
would
the time
say,
change comes at you like that.
I would say in different verticals in my life, I was in that 80%. I was 100% reactive in our business for probably 14 years, right? Like, this is happening to me, not for me. But I like that 80-20, that reactive versus proactive. And I like that you said evidence, because I believe that evidence starts with self-worth, right? Like, stacking all of that evidence. So how do you go from where you're at? Let's say you're in that 80. How do you go from where you're at to where you want to be?
Yeah, we all have this vision of who we are. And it's this identity of us. This is who we are. We all really want to get better. I think most people want to get better. But that current identity is so strong, we have to find a way to change it.
Yes. That is exactly like the client that I'd mentioned. I'm 30 pounds overweight, and I don't see how I can get to where I want to be. And the training that I mentioned earlier that we attended, right? We not only got to hear our health coach speak, but we also got to hear our mental programming mentor speak. Mental mentor. But they both talked about the same thing, essentially, right? And I love how they both framed it differently. Like, I was like, God, this is perfect. You guys are awesome. And they framed it in two different verticals as well.
Yeah.
Right? And I'll get to that in a second. But see, if you're a client of ours, you're already going to know what I'm going to say. You should be able to repeat it. Ready, set, go. No, I'm just kidding. And if you've listened to us for any length of time, you've heard us talk about these daily wins. You've heard us talk about this persistent consistency, not perfection. You've heard us say this. I know you've heard me say this. Not even Jesus was perfect. But looking for those daily wins. The steps, the macros, the lifting, the victory hour. These are all examples of daily wins, things that you can be consistent. No one is perfect. Yes? And getting those daily wins, stacking that evidence in your favor, you're going to gain confidence. So the next step is easier. And both of these guys explained it in a unique way. And I really think it's going to hit home for all of you, because I know that it hit home with the new client that I was speaking to. And again, it starts with self-worth. It starts with doing it for yourself and then looking for the evidence. See, I'm not a person that skips the gym. I'm the person that goes daily, even if I'm not feeling it. So I want to go back to your journey, Matt, and how these two guys explained it, because you are a shining example of this. You are perfection. I love seeing you smile. So I want you to picture two folders, right? These are Matt's folders. Picture two manila folders with me. One folder is evidence of him and those habits and behaviors that make him that shredded elite person. And one folder is filled with the habits and the behaviors of the person that isn't. One folder is stacked with all of those habits and behaviors and the evidence that he needs to prove that he is this person. And the other is the folder that has behaviors unbecoming of this identity. The I told you so. I told you I'm not this person. See, I'm going to sabotage myself because I'm not this person. Does this sound familiar? See, it's almost impossible to make a change in identity without some evidence. We need it. We need it to convince ourselves that we're there. So if you're trying to change and you want that evidence, you've got to start stacking it. You've got to get those daily wins. And Matt knew that in order to get shredded, he had to do some simple stuff daily. He had to tip the evidence in the favor of this new person.
Yeah, and back when I started on this, I didn't understand. I'd never heard this folder analogy that we just learned at this training. I just knew that I needed daily wins. I need to just take one step each day. But now that I know this folder thing, this is exactly what I was doing. I just didn't picture it. And I think that's what's going to be so easy for people today when they look at it this way. I essentially had a folder. Again, Jen said picture two folders. And I had this left manila folder that had all the things that led up to where I was at. All these things that I'd done, the eating, just everything that went, the stress, everything that was in that folder. I mean, that makes you become unhealthy and lack of drive and all those things. And that folder was full. And then I had this empty folder on the right of the person that I wanted to be. And what I did was I listed out the things that I needed to do to be that person. And what I didn't realize was I was building evidence. I knew that I needed to do 10,000 steps every single day, no matter what. I knew that I needed to go to the gym 3 to 4 times a week for 45 minutes. I knew that I needed to get up early in the morning and do Victory Hour to get my mind right for the day. And I knew that I had to hit the macros that my coach gave me 80% of the time. And this is so important. It's not 100% of the time. I knew I had to build evidence. I had to stack evidence in this folder or daily wins for me. And there's no way I was ever going to hit my macros 100% of the time every single day. It's not possible. So I didn't want to stack additional failures in that folder that was already holding me back on that left-hand side. I needed to stack everything in that right-hand side, that evidence that I could do this. I want to stack consistency, not perfection. See, we try to make things so hard. We try to find out what that next big thing is. Is it intermittent fasting? Is it 75 hard? Is it low carb? It isn't any of those things, because you need solid evidence of how you get from point A to point B. And the best way to do that is to make it simple. See, I went from this empty folder to within 2 weeks, I was consistent. I did my 10,000 steps. I worked out 3 to 4 times a week. I did my Victory Hour every single morning, and I hit my macros 85% of the time. And what I did was I all of a sudden then I called it daily wins, but today I started filling up that folder of evidence. I was filling it full. Now, did I lose 30 pounds in 2 weeks? Absolutely not. But again, I was building up the evidence that Jen said we need. We have to have evidence to go from point A to point B. I was stacking small wins. My folder was being built. My folder was changing. All of a sudden, one was getting smaller and the other was getting bigger.
Yeah. And it's funny because the more consistent, again, not perfect, consistent, that persistent consistency, the more consistent you were, the self-sabotaging behavior started to go away as well. You started emptying that folder.
It's so easy to think about it as folders now.
Yeah. It's like grading papers every single day. You had a stack full of 90%. You did great.
Yeah.
so that all the F's just kind of canceled themselves out at the end of the semester. And you're a new person. But here's where the gold is, guys. As our mental programming coach said at this training, Incongruency comes from 50% in one pile and 50% in another pile. It's like trying to be that next version of yourself, carrying a monkey on your back like, this isn't going to work. It's like, God, it's like trying to pull a donkey up a hill, right? It's just effort. But I want you to go beyond a fitness goal. I want you to think of a really big goal. I want you to think of something that makes the hair on your arm stand up, right? Can you picture something? If you have a folder that is only a 50% success rate, your mind is going to think there's only a 50-50 chance of you hitting that goal.
That is precisely the reason we do what we do. I would ask everyone what Jen just said. That was the goal right there. Why do you think our marriage has changed so much in the last 24 to 36 months?
That's sex. It's evidence.
Why do you think that our business is taking off? We both put stacks and stacks and stacks of evidence in that folder, that elite body folder, one day at a time, day after day. We just kept stacking in there. We could do this. And as we filled up that folder, we went from that 50% success rate to 100%. We knew we could do this. And when that folder was overflowing with evidence, the next goal was inevitable. That is the whole point of this. That is why we talk about fitness a third of the time and every other vertical 2/3 of the time. Because once you stack this evidence, this folder gets so fat and happy that you can do this, it just leads into every other realm of your life. You can't be stopped. When you start stacking that evidence of how you feel and how your body looks, you become congruent. Jen talked about that earlier. Incongruency is when you have a 50% and a 50%. You become so congruent because you believe in yourself that your identity is capable of anything. You're capable of so much more. You just have to have the evidence.
And it's not that you believe, it's that you've proven it.
It's the evidence. It's facts.
It's facts. Numbers don't lie. So I want to leave you with some tactics. You know I love my lists, guys. Oh my goodness. We've got to get tactical with this because, sharing stories is great, but if we don't leave you with something that you can apply today, then how good of a value are we? So number one, I want you to think of your two folders. We're going to pick them up, shake them out. My fat gold chain watch was clangy. We're shaking them out. We're starting from scratch today.
It doesn't matter what you've done in the past. We're starting from scratch.
The evidence starts now. I want you to write down the attributes of who you are shooting for. What are you trying to become? Who are you trying to evolve into? Let's write down the attributes. Next, I want you to write down the evidence you need. How will you know when you've achieved it? How will you know when you've tipped the scales in your favor? Are you the type of person that I know I will be on my way when I'm lifting on vacation? When I carve out time for my workouts every day for 5 months? When I never skip my steps? When I always turn in my check-in sheet? When I'm 85% on my macros? What evidence do you need? What behaviors do you need? I don't want perfection. I want consistency. What consistent evidence do you need so that you know you've tipped the scales in your favor? And then finally, the last, you got to get to work.
Yeah, write down the attributes. Write down the evidence you need and start building some evidence today.
I love it. Guys, I hope this hit. If you love it, share it with a friend. Tag us in your Instagram stories. Give us a 5-star review. Leave us some comments on YouTube. Do all the things. Start stacking evidence. And with that, we'll talk to you next time.